It's New Bedford Connections, where we meet prominent people from the greater New Bedford area. Now here's your host, Paul Santos.
We've covered a lot of topics here on New Bedford Connections, but can I say this one's out of this world? We do have a very interesting topic to talk about today. It is UFOs. Do you believe in UFOs? Do you believe that there are extraterrestrials out there who have visited Earth and maybe even abducted people? We have somebody here that says it's true. In fact, he was an abductee himself. We're welcome to New Bedford Connections from Acushnet, Mr. Jim Andre. Jim, thanks a lot for stopping by New Bedford Connections.
Thank you for having me.
This is a real interesting topic, of course. Topic that's been discussed for many, many years, and I know that it's very easy for people to be skeptical, but there's been a lot of people who are credible people in all walks of life who have claimed to have had this encounter. And we're going to get into your encounter in a moment, but the first thing I want to do is do a quick biography. You're from Acushnet, Massachusetts.
Correct. Yeah.
You worked, I think, in the bus driving field.
Yes.
And you later became a constable.
Correct.
And you are now semi-retired.
Yes, sir.
So your interest in extraterrestrials, UFOs, that kind of thing, that happened to you a little bit later on in life, correct?
It did, yes.
So this would be what, in the last 4 or 5 years?
Well, actually, I started taking interest in it about probably at the age of 43, 44.
Right. And what was the reason why you got interested in UFOs, extraterrestrials, all that stuff?
Well, it seemed as though I was getting like flashbacks from when I was a child with different incidents that would occur.
Right. And so you went online and started researching it a little bit?
Yeah, there's a wealth of information online about this topic, yeah.
By the way, you raised a family, 7 kids, is that right? 7 kids? How
Yes.
did you do that? It's 5 sons and 2 daughters.
It wasn't easy.
Yeah, that's for sure. 5 sons and 2 daughters. So that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So a lot of people know about some famous cases. One of the cases that I think a lot of people have heard about is the case of Betty and Barney Hill. They claim to have been abducted on September the 19th of 1961. I believe it was up in New Hampshire, was it not?
Yes, it was.
Tell me a little bit about that story, because a lot of people have listened to this story and a lot of people are skeptical about it, but on the other side of the coin, a lot of people would say, well, these are credible people. Why would they make this story up?
They were credible people. He worked for the U.S. Post Office. She was head of Child and Family Services. Mm-hmm. And them being an interracial married couple back in the 60s would have been taboo.
Right.
I mean, with all the racial violence and all that going on. The last thing they would want to do is bring unwanted or attention upon themselves.
But they claim that there was a bunch of time when they were going down a road.
They lost about 4 hours of time, yeah.
That they couldn't account for.
Right.
And then later on, they started to have flashbacks about what happened. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
And they contend that they were abducted.
They didn't say anything about it for 2 years.
Right.
And, they kept getting these flashbacks, like in the form of dreams and whatnot.
Right. And then there was the case of Travis Walton.
Yes.
He was another individual who claimed that he saw a UFO and there was a UFO hovering over.
He was with a work crew. They were doing lumber work, I guess, in the woods somewhere, and 6 of his crewmates witnessed him get out of the truck, go to the orb of light that was in the woods there, and a beam of light came down, struck him. He flew back, and the crew took off. I guess they got scared and took off.
Right, and this is in front of obviously the whole crew, so there's a whole bunch of witnesses.
There was 6 witnesses. 5 of them had numerous polygraph tests and passed them. And there was 1 that was inconclusive.
Right. Now, I know there have been cases, and we just mentioned 2, you could probably mention so many, where something that's hard to explain has happened in front of so many witnesses. So it's easy to say, well, you know what, this is crazy, this doesn't make any sense. But yet, when you have all these witnesses saying the same thing, you got to kind of take a second look at it. So this is your point of view.
Correct.
And
those are 2 cases where I believe they're authentic and not a hoax.
And then, of course, there's the famous Area 51 case.
Yes.
Back in the 40s.
That was a UFO crash then.
Right. What do you think about that? You think that happened?
Oh yeah.
Why do you think it happened?
Well, I mean, there's evidence out there. There's different videos and films that they did on autopsies for the alien beings that were aboard the craft.
Right. And you also say that the granddaughter of President Eisenhower is somebody that believes in the extraterrestrials.
Well,
is that
she's
right?
got
Tell me about
inside
that.
information. She's got inside information. The government has black op programs, black budget, shadow governments, and there's things that go on behind the scenes that the president himself doesn't even know about.
Right. Now, you yourself claim that you were abducted.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that. What happened and when did it happen?
I was home one night. This was in, I believe it was 2014. And I was at my computer and sitting in the chair on the computer. The last thing I remember is looking down at the lower right-hand corner of the monitor. It said 9:15 p.m. Then all of a sudden, I'm kind of like waking back up. I'm like in a daze. I'm looking around, and I look at the time, and it was 2:57 a.m., which is actually 3 minutes before I usually or normally get up for work.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't set the alarm clock yet. Obviously, I hadn't gone to bed yet. So I'm looking around, and all of a sudden, I feel a burning sensation on my right forearm. And I look. I know this sounds bizarre, and there was a tattoo.
Can you hold your arm out for a second?
I
We're gonna get a
can,
shot of
yes.
that. So there's a tattoo on your arm that seems to be in the shape of eyes, and there's a face
Yes,
there, right?
it resembles an alien gray.
Right. So you're saying that from the time that you were at the computer at 9:15 p.m. to the time at 2:57 a.m., that tattoo appeared on your arm.
Correct. Now, like I said, it was an intense burning sensation.
Right.
I didn't know what to make. I was beside myself, and I don't, as bizarre as it sounds, I don't expect anyone to believe me. I still don't believe it.
Did you tell anybody about that immediately?
Yes. Well, yeah, I did.
Who did you
tell?
tell?
A couple of people.
Right.
My dad and.
So you said, hey, you're not going to believe this.
Right.
but I was sitting at the computer, and you're not going to believe what happened here.
And the
right?
thing is, a normal tattoo will heal by scabbing. You know what I mean? Like a scrape or an abrasion
Right.
would heal.
Mm-hmm.
This one here bubbled up like it was a burn. And instead of scabbing up when it healed, it peeled like a sunburn.
Right. I mean, I'm having you on here, right? I've known
You
Jim.
are.
I've known Jim for a number of years. Jim claims that this happened. I know that there are people in the audience who are not going to believe you. You even said to me, hey, I
I've
wouldn't
done
believe it
serves
myself.
for his law firm for the last 10 years. They probably won't want me to serve anymore.
As long as you serve papers, I don't care how you do it. You can get help. You can come on a ship. I don't care how you serve the process, as long as it gets there. But no, it's you know, you're not
bizarre.
It's bizarre. You're not the only one that claims this happened, and I'm not saying to the audience here that you should believe it or disbelieve it. We just thought it was an interesting topic that should be discussed because other people have claimed the same thing.
Well,
now,
we put forth the information. I mean, that's up to
Right.
them whether they want to believe it or not.
obviously, as an attorney, right? Could something else have happened? Could you have dozed off? Could
The
you
only,
have been
the,
drugged?
The only, no, I was not
anything
drunk.
like that?
No, I don't drink. I still smoke and I shouldn't be, but
Right. Could
the
there be
only,
any
the
other
only,
explanation?
the only other explanation or alternative would be that somebody snuck in, spiked my drink or something.
Yeah, right.
I went out, they tattooed me while I was out,
Yeah, right.
and that didn't happen.
Right. So that is the only other possibility.
Yeah, why would it heal the way it did?
Yeah, right, because you've had other tattoos,
Yes.
right? You have a
yes, and
tattoo
they-
in your
and
other
they
arm.
Yes. And
So
they
your
spit
contention is that this tattoo healed in a manner that is something
in a
different.
different manner
in a
than
different
the
manner than-
normal tattoo, which leads me to believe it was either, it wasn't done by the conventional ink and needle
Right.
procedure, but by maybe a laser or something like that.
Yeah, right. Now, after this happened, you got more and more interested, of course, in the whole idea that there are extraterrestrials out there. I mean, I've heard scientists say that the universe is so big that the possibility of us being the only
Yeah, you'd
somewhat
have to be
intelligent life.
very narrow-minded if you thought that
Well,
way. We're the only, we're
we're the-
supposed to be intelligent.
We're supposed to be intelligent. I think that we're a little more primitive than what we say. But the idea is that there could be life out there that's more advanced than ours, and it is possible that they've come down and take a look at us and
It's
taken off.
it's an endless universe.
It's an endless universe. So there are scientists that say that. But when you get into these specific stories about, hey, I was going down a dark road and somebody took me, or like your story about the computer, people are going to have a hard time digesting
yes,
this.
I realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the reason why you are now kind of going public? You started a new site on the web. In fact, we encourage people to go look at it because it's very interesting. It's called the Alien Connection Truth Network, founded here by Jim Andre. Why did you decide to found the Alien Connection Truth Network?
Well, I mean, obviously, what I've experienced, I have an interest in it, and
Right.
you know, the reason why I'm here is to put the word out. Like I say, you know, they can believe it or not believe it. That's up to them.
Right. So you began the group in 2013, and the funny thing about it is you had a lot of followers, a lot of people going to the site. I think as of this taping, even just a few months ago, it was at 65,000, and then all of a sudden it ballooned up over 100,000
Well,
people are in this, correct?
Actually, about a month ago, it was 65,000 members,
Right.
and since then, it's up to 102,000 members.
Right. Is there any reason why you think that this is
I
ballooned
have,
the way it has?
I have no idea. I don't advertise it. I don't
Right.
expose it in any way. For some reason, this past month, they've been joining by the thousands.
Now you say here on your site that there are many years of research that has gone on to this topic, UFO sightings, paranormal events, and that's the reason why you decided to start this group. What about the research? You think the research, if somebody actually does the research, you think the research is pretty persuasive, correct?
Oh yes, I mean there's researchers out there that are legitimate, like Richard Dolan, Linda Moulton Howe. They've been researching for years.
Mm-hmm. And
They've been before Congress.
they've testified before Congress
Yes,
for the purpose of Congress trying to investigate what was going on.
revealing, yes, and also to try to get them to reveal what's actually going on, because the government knows what's going on.
Well, you know, it's interesting because there are people out there who try to fake UFO sightings, right?
Correct.
And they have hoaxes and sometimes.
Well, there's a lot of that today because you've got the CGI and
Right.
with the videos and all that. So.
Right. So your organization, I know you talked to me off the air before, and you at that site, which again is called the Alien Connection Truth Network, you try to scrutinize anybody who's going to try to perpetrate a hoax. What kind of investigation do you go into
Well,
to
what
try
we
to make
do
sure
is
it
we
doesn't
try
happen?
to filter the members as they request to join. We have them answer a couple of questions,
Mhm.
depending on their answer, and we can click on their profile, see basically what their thoughts are and stuff by what they post. And
All right.
that's how we determine whether we're going to let them become a member or not.
So you do a little bit of a background check kind
Well,
of thing?
in-
I don't know
in-
about a
in-
background
in
check.
a way, not exactly a background check, but
Well, you want to make sure that the
like a
thing
little
is,
maybe upfront check. Or
yeah,
something like that. I don't-
I want to make sure that this is all in the up and up. Well, again, I I have a picture here. This is Jim's house in Acushnet, and again, Jim claims that there was some type of an aircraft
Yes,
that was hovering over your house. Is that right?
yes.
So here's the picture right here. This is Jim's house in Acushnet, Massachusetts, and there appears to be some kind of spacecraft hovering
That
over
would
your
be
house.
that would be the typical design of a UFO.
All right. And when did this happen?
That was 2014, I believe.
All right.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not telling you anything you already don't know. There are people in our audience that go, no, wait a minute, this guy.
Yeah, this guy's off.
This
the
guy's
wall.
a little crappy.
Something wrong with this guy.
Right. So
And he's a constable.
yeah. So I guess my question would be, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the fact that people say that guy's
I
nuts?
know what I know. I mean, and I understand that, if they think I'm a crackpot, well, that's fine too, because I can't blame them,
Right.
I mean, that's understandable, but that's something that I have to accept.
Well, here's another picture right here, and this is a picture. Jim didn't take this picture, but this is a picture that purports to be some kind of an extraterrestrial. How can you look at this picture and know for sure whether or not it's legit? How do we know that this isn't some kind of a hoax that somebody, because you can, I mean, there are people,
Well, I
wax
mean,
museum
there's-
people that
there's-
could make
there's-
something that looks like that, right?
Well, that's true, yeah. I mean, there's ways that we could analyze the picture to see if the picture itself is legit. But I don't know about analyzing the actual alien image in the picture.
Yeah, right. Now, I know that I saw something on television one time where they were talking to astronauts, because we've had astronauts, obviously, that have gone to the moon. They've gone in orbit around the moon. I think there was an astronaut that says that they saw something that seemed to be flying near the,
I
don't know if
think
it was
there's
the
been
Apollo.
more than one that have,
Right.
that have
So what about that? I mean, here's somebody that's an astronaut,
correct,
and they're saying that they saw something that they can't explain.
exactly, yeah.
You would think that somebody would say, well, wait a minute, this isn't, you talk about somebody alleging to be a crackpot or something like that. An astronaut, somebody sworn, military, trained, and they see something like that. That's
Right.
kind of persuasive, right?
Well, just like an incident that I was talking about to you a while back, Larry King Live.
Yes.
He had 5 or 6 military servicemen on there that attested that they've seen UFO craft hovering over nuclear silos, military silos. And this is not only in the United States, but this has happened worldwide. And when the UFO is over the silo, they got some type of technology where they can just cut the power to all the weaponry online. And
Right.
it takes them over 24 hours to start it back up again.
How difficult is it to go public or report something that you know is going to get the reaction that it's going to get? Because again, like let's say I have an experience that I know nobody's going to believe.
Right. Well, see, that's something you're going to have to decide within yourself whether you want to go ahead and talk about it or just keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people out there that I think are experiencers that do keep it to themselves.
Right. They're thinking to themselves, well, if I tell anybody that I had this experience, they're all going to think I'm nuts.
Exactly.
So I might as well keep it to myself, and then my life will be easier, right?
That's right.
So did you ever think that that's what you were going to do?
Well,
Did
I've
you ever
contemplated. I mean, this here I contemplated,
Right.
more
Yeah.
than anything, and I decided, well,
What the heck?
maybe I am crazy, but I don't think I am.
Right.
I'll leave it at that.
So here's what it is. I'm telling you the story. Kind of take it or leave it. This is what it is.
Now that Larry King Live, they can Google that. There's a wealth of information on the internet.
Yeah, right. Now, all these different stories that have happened over the years, people seeing hovering craft and all of a sudden it disappears. Somebody might say, well, maybe the United States government was running a test or something. But again, when you have witnesses that saw something, they saw something.
Right.
I mean, it may or may not be an extraterrestrial, but
Right.
they saw something.
That's why it's called a UFO, unidentified flying
Because
object.
we haven't identified
because
it.
it's unknown.
So how do you, decide based on the evidence that it's not something that, somebody's testing or one of the governments?
Well, that very well could be a government craft also, because they've since that Area 51. They've been in contact with alien beings since really 1940s.
Who has?
The U.S. government.
All right. And you're persuaded.
They've back-engineered UFOs that have crash landed, and they've got all that technology. They've got a lot of technology from the extraterrestrials.
And why do you believe that to be true? Based on your investigation?
Yes.
Why would the government, do you think, the United States government, not go public with the information that they have, even if
Well,
it's...
I think they would like us to believe that if everyone realized that extraterrestrials actually existed, that there would be a cause of fear and chaos.
Right.
A fear factor.
I know the skeptics always used to say, well, why don't they land, right in front of the Washington Monument and say, hello,
Well,
wherever we are.
There's been reports years ago, I forget what year it was, I don't know if it was in the 50s, where UFOs were over the U.S. Capitol.
Right. But they never land right in front of the, it's always like some road out in the middle of New Hampshire. It's never like, hey, can we just land right here and then, where's President Trump? Let's have a discussion right here.
That's a good point. That leads me to wonder how a 747 could fly over that secure airspace and hit the Pentagon.
Right. Well, that's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother segment.
That's a whole nother. That's a whole nother segment at a later time. So let's talk a little bit more about the Alien Connection Alien Connection Truth Network. I'm getting affected by the topic here. By the way, can these extraterrestrials, can they do anything for a bad back? Because my back has been killing me. I had a bad operation and everything.
I'm also into psychic healing.
All right, so
and I've been successful at that also.
Well, let them know that hey, I'm a good Santos that has a bad back. So can you come down and give me a laser beam or something? And
yeah, the guy did us a favor. He let us on the show.
Exactly. So the Alien Connection Truth Network, is it a website? Is that what it is?
It's actually a Facebook
page.
Facebook page, yeah.
And you have 101,000 people following it, or friends with it, or
102. It's about 102,000 right now.
Right. And where would you say most of the people are from? Are they all over the world?
Oh yes, 4 corners of the world: Africa, Philippines, China, everywhere.
And do you think that people in other parts of the world have also witnessed different events like the one you've described?
There's no doubt, yeah.
All over the world?
Yes.
Right. So what is the purpose of the Alien Connection Truth Network? What's the goal? What are you
Well,
trying to accomplish?
the goal is for full disclosure.
Let everybody know what's really happening.
Exactly. And full disclosure, in my opinion, will come sooner or later. You know.
Well, if what you were saying turns out to be the way it is, I would think that eventually there would be some kind of contact made, I would imagine.
There's a lot of information I have that goes really deep. Of course, we wouldn't have time for all that, but I mean,
I think the main thing is trying to determine whether something's a hoax or whether it's real. That's the main thing.
exactly.
Because people can send you pictures, I'm sure, and say, Jim, take a look at this.
Right.
And you might look at it and say, wait a minute, this is a hoax. This is not
Right.
not true.
But
you know
there's a
what I mean?
lot of that. There's a lot of that out there on the internet. Like I said, with the CGI software and things like that, you can make videos look real, but
Right.
they're actually not. So
Yeah. Now, have you done any traveling as part of the Alien Connection Truth Network?
not yet.
But your plan is to do that?
Eventually,
So what are you thinking you'd like to do? You'd like to travel to different parts of the United States and
Sure.
meet other people that are
Yeah.
involved in the same
yeah,
kind of thing?
go to different events and whatnot. Yeah.
Talking to Jim Andre, he is the founder of the Alien Connection Truth Network. He is advocating that there are extraterrestrials out there and that we are not alone here on the planet Earth. I think that a lot of people, I don't know, I don't think I've ever seen a survey done, but I think if you did a survey, I think you'd have a pretty good percentage of people that would say that it doesn't make sense that we are the only intelligent life in the entire universe because the universe is too big.
I agree.
But that's a much different thing to believe than, hey, how you doing? I I was abducted by an alien and I met an alien and here's a tattoo, right? So that's a little different.
I can only tell it like it is. That's all I can do.
Now I know that it's interesting because I talked to you before, and Jim and I have known each other for a number of years. As Jim said, I'm working at a law firm affiliated with the law firm of Friedland and Newman, which I've been for a long time. I'm in practice and everything else. And Jim does a lot of our service of process.
At one
So
time,
Jim-
I was doing a lot of the cases. What
Right.
happened to those? You guys don't do them anymore?
Yeah, I mean, there were other firms that focus more on that. But the point is, I've known you for a long time, and you mentioned, I don't know, some time back that we'd have you on, and we went on and did other
That
things.
was quite
that
a while
ago.
back.
Yeah, right? So now we decided to have Jim on, and you said before that after the show was over, I wouldn't want you to serve process anymore.
Well, I was
So
taking a chance.
This guy,
I'm
you know,
taking
he's a little on the edge over
He's
here.
a little off.
I said, I don't care how you deliver the summons. It can be by the Jupiter 2, or it can be. We don't care as long as it gets delivered. Now, all joking aside, it's a serious subject because, as much as there is some humor involved in it and everything else, there are a lot of people who contend that this has happened. And so the question is the government doing what you're saying? Is the government saying, you know what, this is such an unbelievable subject, it would cause panic and fear that we're just going to keep it private, and that's what your view is?
Correct.
And what about other governments? There are other governments that feel the same way
Well,
about it,
I'm
you
sure
think?
there's other countries like Germany and Russia and all that also they're also aware of the existence.
Right. Now, I know you've told this story to family and friends. Do you think that most of your family and friends believe you, or do they think that, hey, Jim,
Well, I don't.
he's had a rough ride
As
here? or something?
bizarre as it is, I don't.
You don't know if they believe you or not?
Probably not.
Even your close family members would say, gee, Jim's...
Right. I
Jim-
mean, that's hard to swallow. I mean, I wouldn't believe it myself.
So if you were sitting here and I was sitting there, what would you think Santos went off his rocker a little bit?
A little
That's
bit,
what you would think?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's got to be the hardest part, like to say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to tell this story, and I don't care what anybody
But you
thinks.
know, when it's actually a reality, it's hard. You're arguing with yourself. You hold it in. Either you hold it in or you let it out.
Right, right.
Holding it in can drive you crazy.
Yeah, right. But not telling anybody would drive you even more crazy.
Right. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Yeah.
So what do you think should happen? What should the government do? I mean, people have testified before Congress.
Well,
when was the last time that people testified before Congress?
We say that we're searching, hoping for full disclosure, but that's something that's got to be done a certain way, just for the simple reason that I mean, what would happen if there was a massive UFO landing worldwide?
Mhm.
Chaos, right? Automatic.
Right.
Retaliation.
Well,
fear,
they might be
fear,
able to.
retaliation, chaos.
Well, they might be
carnage.
able to come in and settle things down a little bit.
Well, that's my belief is they're going to intervene to save man from man himself.
Well, the movie, and there's been a lot of science fiction, and I was kind of like a Star Trek geek, but The Day the Earth Stood Still is a great classic where you know, somebody came down from outer space and really saved man from himself. And the serious topic is that as we continue to proceed along, the horrific weaponry that we now have on the planet, I think somebody
That's a
said,
reality, yes.
that's a reality. I think somebody said that the technology is going faster than man's wisdom.
Right.
So your hope is that at some point
So
an
we have-
extraterrestrial
we
comes
have-
in and saves us. Right?
Correct. We have the means to destroy ourselves with no problem.
There's no question about that.
And you know, that's why I say anybody interested, Google that Larry King Live,
Right.
because they've been seen over nuclear silos. They have the technology to cut out the power to the weaponry, which means they're probably doing dry runs so that, you know, if anything is to occur, they'll be there to save us from ourselves.
Well, you know, they did a Star Trek episode, right? And I'm familiar with all of the Star Trek episodes. And I really was a Star Trek geek, you know what I mean?
It's a Trekkie, huh?
Yeah, kind of a Trek. Yeah, well, those Trekkies, you know, I never put the ears on though, so you know, I never went to. I did actually go to a convention though back in the '70s, but did not put the ears on. I just want to make the record clear. But they had a lot of interesting things on the original Star Trek, Classic Trek, they call it, and a lot of the things that they did on Classic Trek. You know, like talking into the computer, and the computer figures everything out.
Right.
The computer has its own mind,
Well,
and artificial intelligence and all that.
Well, you know,
all
that's
that
the
stuff
thing.
came true, most of it.
Throughout history, man's imagination, somewhere down the road,
Right.
becomes a reality.
But they had an episode where, of course, the the Federation, which was, you know, Captain Kirk and his group was the United
Right.
Federation of Planets.
Right.
They were always in some kind of a disagreement with the Klingons.
Yes.
And there was one episode where the Klingons and the Federation were going to go to war, and all of a sudden the weapons didn't work
Right.
because an outside force came in and said, "All right, enough
There you
is
go.
enough."
Enough is
so
enough,
actually,
yeah.
if they came down and helped us, that would be great.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, but then again, you know,
Don't forget about the bad back.
there's there's different there's different species of aliens as well, and
Right.
there's good and you know, benevolent, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
So I mean,
Right.
it's like that with everything.
Now, I know as part of the Alien Connection Truth Network, you have also attempted and will attempt to make contact, right? So how do you do that? I mean, your hope is to get people together that are like-thinking people
Yes.
and
I
try
mean,
to hope that somewhere out there you're being monitored, and maybe they say, yeah, you know, that Jim Andre, he's all right. Maybe,
Well,
maybe
you
he's
know,
the guy
one-
that we're gonna.
one thing that, you know, somewhere down the road, funding always helps too. But you know, I'm not in it for the money. You know.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, of course, it would help with, you know, travel and all that. But
Yeah, right. I mean, if you were the guy that made contact, that'd be pretty good. Because we could say, you know, we're one of the first shows that have you been on a show like this before?
no, I haven't.
We can say this is the first show that, you know, that Jim Andre, that he made.
I mean, I've done a few other, you know, videos on the internet. But
Yeah, right. Well, Jim, you know, we really appreciate you coming on. I know this is a subject that's difficult to digest. I find it very fascinating. I don't disbelieve what you're saying. I can't say that.
you can't say either way.
Well,
Nobody
no,
can really.
I
but
can't. I can't say that you're actually.
come
making,
on, you can tell whether I'm lying or not. You're a lawyer.
I think it's difficult to digest. I'm not going to say that. I think there's other things that could have happened to you. I don't think you're making it up because I've known you too long. I just don't think you come in here and make this up.
Right.
I think you really believe what you're saying. But whether or not it happened the way that you did,
Yeah, as a matter of
I don't
fact,
know.
I
You
mean,
could have blacked out. You could have had some kind
Oh
of.
yeah. Well,
some kind
then
of
again, where did it come from?
Well, the tattoo. Tattoo's kind of tough to explain. I know. We'll play a hoax on Jim. We'll knock him out. We'll slip him a drink. We'll tattoo him, get out of there, and then we'll see what happens. I don't know, but I
Yeah,
I
then they'd
find
be all screwed up.
I find the topic very fascinating.
It is a fascinating
And
topic.
I
yeah.
hope whether you think Jim is crazy or whatever you think, it is definitely an interesting topic. And we thank Jim for coming by to share his experience. Jim, thanks very much.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And we hope to have you back down the road.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll come again.
All right. Jim Andre of the Alien Connection Truth Network has been our guest. What a fascinating subject. Believe it or not, by Ripley, what they used to say, right? I'm Paul Santos for New Bedford Connections. We'll see you again real soon, I hope. Good night.